Welcome, welcome. Hi. How's everyone doing? Aw, you guys are so beautiful. Good to see all your faces. Guys, we made it. We made it through Christmas. We made it through New Year's. I'm excited for tonight.
Whoa, man.
Hello.
Look how many people are already here.
I
I
forget
know.
that you guys are on the call before we are now. I was like, oh.
It's like, bam.
Waiting for you.
I almost said happy Monday. It's been a week. Happy Thursday.
That's how connected we are to our calendars.
Hi. How's everyone doing? There in the chat box. How's your week going? Ours has been crazy. We've been moving again.
The place that we're renting in Hawaii, our owner just randomly was like, hey, I'm going to sell it. And so you guys have to be out at the end of the month. We're like, oh, sweet.
It's been stressful.
You know, plants are really hard to move because you have to like make sure that they stay alive and stuff. It's the worst.
I literally.
So you're like trying to like discombobulate yourself to like get them in the car.
No,
it's the worst
we
thing.
literally drove through Maui with my passenger door open and the plant sticking out of the car.
We were like a moving rainforest.
All right. Oh, Ashley, it's your first call with us. Welcome. If this is your first time on a Thursday call with us, would you wave at the camera and then in the chat box say, I'm a newbie? Welcome.
That's so cool.
It's so good to see all your faces. And for those of you who have been around, welcome. We freaking love you. You're all wonderful. I see a lot of familiar faces. And it's been a minute, actually. It's been the holidays. We've been still doing Thrive calls, so I feel like I've seen some of you. But
yeah, make us the co-host just in case, Kate Taylor. And I just want to take a second to honor everybody for choosing into this because it's not an easy process. I mean, especially in the beginning, I'm sure you guys know it's, for me, I'm like a heavy dissociator. So it's really easy for me just to like shove pain and avoid it and then like get really, really busy. Well, that's what I'm explaining.
Okay.
So like for me, I can get into work mode. I can like emotions feel scary for me. It feels like a really lonely place if I start feeling. And it's been that way for a long time. But over the past 10 years, I've learned to let people in and not be alone in feelings. But after being on this process for 10 years, we're still in it, you know, and we still have things that we're facing every day, that we're facing every week. And just the fact that you guys are choosing into not shaming yourselves, like choosing to get out of shame, choosing to partner with unconditional love, choosing to face painful emotions from childhood and relationships. Like it's a brave, courageous process. Mm-hmm. And we have so much respect for you guys. Like the fact that you're investing in yourselves, like we are still investing in ourselves every single week with new coaches, with new programs, because we need it. You know, it's not even just so we could give it away. It's like we actually deeply need it. You guys,
you never arrive. But the beautiful thing is, and what I love about this program and this process is that you can get the tools to actually feel connected and feel free and feel alive and not be bound. Like though we're constantly learning and growing, it's because we see who we want to be 20 years from now. And so for us, it's worth continually doing the work that it takes. But we live in a state of freedom and connection that I didn't even know was possible 5 years ago. I had no idea it was possible. And I live in so much freedom and I feel alive inside, even whenever I'm going through normal life things. So there's never an arrival point. Like the process is part of the beauty, and each time you taste freedom is a part of the beauty. So we're so proud of you. You're so powerful. And I love that you guys are here with us. And we're going to get into the good stuff. The good stuff. Maybe Tay can
We're going to get into the good stuff.
You know, like the good stuff.
Yeah, you betcha.
Tay, could you do some housekeeping and then we'll pray and get started?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, ladies. We've already said hello to all of our newbies, but again, hello. And I agree with Spence. This is such an intense work, and you'll get so many amazing tools even just out of this coaching call. So whenever Sammy and Spence pick someone to coach, just know that it's for you too. If it's connecting with your heart, take it, close your eyes, get in there, and let him love on that part of your heart too, okay? So also, if you are getting coached, if you can just give them the meat and potatoes, and we'll get rolling. Are you guys laughing at me? Huh?
I clicked so many buttons trying to unmute myself just now. Button.
She opened like 3 apps. What we were gonna say is that you said potato funny. And
Potato.
so,
Well,
I knew
also,
it.
also, I started saying meat and potatoes, and now everyone says meat and potatoes. And now every time someone hears meat and potatoes, they're like, yeah, we get it. And some of the people are like, what?
Should we
What is
change
that?
to like steak and carrots or something?
Keep it to the spinach, and we'd be like really happy with that.
I mean,
Perfect.
oh my gosh. I'll start us off just with prayer, and
I need butter though.
I need butter.
We all need butter.
Butter's great. Yeah, so if you guys could just close your eyes, I'd love to just pray and, help us all get a little bit more connected and present. Yeah, so just go ahead and close your eyes. Unless you're driving.
He says this
then
every week.
don't close your eyes.
Every week.
You'll put everybody in immediate danger.
All right,
okay.
pray. Jesus is going to leave.
But it doesn't work unless you close your eyes.
The Holy
Just kidding.
Spirit left the building. He gone.
Yeah, God, I just thank you that you're so in this process with us. Thank you, God, for being an involved Father. And I just invite you into every person's space on this call, wherever they're at in their room, in their car, in their living room, wherever they are. God, would you just enter their space? I know that you're there. I know that you're inside of them. We all know that you're here, but we want to feel and know that you're here. We want to know that you're close. And I know that you want that for us. You want us to know how close you are to us. And God, would you just remind every woman on the call that they're not alone. They're not alone in their process. They're not alone in their pain. There's actually nothing that they can do to cause you to abandon them. There's nothing that they can do to cause you to want to leave. And I know, God, that we've had painful experiences with friends, with family, where people have abandoned us. People have rejected us. People in their pain have hurt us and abused us and neglected us. But you've never been that God. And just over every single woman's heart, I just give you permission to let go of any perspectives and lenses you've carried over him. Any ways that you've projected mom and dad pain onto him. Your pain is totally valid, and what you've experienced is totally valid. The pain you've experienced from church leaders, maybe authority figures, so valid. But he's always been so loving and intentional for you. He also respects your boundaries. He also respects where you're at.
And I'd love for you to take a few deep breaths. You can keep your eyes closed. I want you to take deep breaths in through your nose. And then I want you to give like a big sigh. So I want you to take a few more. And I want you to sit up straight. I want you to open up your hands, palms up. Take a few more breaths. And while you're breathing, I want you to just release what you've been carrying. The fear, the anxiety, the doubt, the spinning and swirling that you've been doing. You've been making circles logically for way too long. Your brain and your mind has tried to be relentless at protecting you from pain, and your armor has been up for so long. And with your hands open, I want you to say, God, I welcome you in right now. I invite your peace in right now. Love, you're welcome here. Joy, you're welcome here. Hope, I'm holding on to you. And Holy Spirit, will you empower me? I was never supposed to do this on my own. And I've been trying to for way too long. And I'm exhausted. And I've failed. And I've proven that I can't do this on my own. Holy Spirit, I need you. Will you empower me with your grace? That's why you live in me, is to empower me with your grace. I don't become like God in my own strength. It's you who renews me. It's you who transforms me. It's you who fills me. It's you who heals me. So God, have your way with me tonight.
And I just want to speak over you just while your eyes are closed. I'm so sorry for the ways that you felt like you've had to do things alone. I'm just like genuinely sorry for the ways that you've actually felt alone in your process, that you've had to hide the dark parts of your heart, the dark places that you haven't wanted people to see, the parts of you that you've been scared that people might judge you or draw conclusions over you. I'm so sorry for the ways that you've been hyper vigilant, that you've been in fight or flight in so many instances, that you haven't been able to feel, that there hasn't been safety to just feel. Sorry for the ways that you felt pressure to always just put on a happy face or to do things right. And that if you don't do things right, then people will leave. If you don't do things right, then God will create space, then people will create space. I'm sorry for how terrified you've been in different ways to let people in, that people haven't felt safe. I'm so sorry for the pressure that you felt in different places. And I give you permission. I give you permission to feel. I give you permission to be wherever you're at. I give you permission to actually encounter love where you're at.
And y'all are welcome to open your eyes. And I just had
what are some things, just in the chat, what are some things you're noticing after that? Like, what are some things that you're noticing
what do you feel?
just after, like, is there anything different that's happening in you?
Oh, lots of peace. Love that. So good. There's this book called Love Thyself. And for anyone who wants to read it, it's by Masaru Emoto. And in the book,
Write that down.
Yeah, write it down. Not really. If you want to read the book,
I don't know how
for
to
it.
spell that, but
Love
good luck.
Thyself. In the book, this man, he takes droplets of water and he freezes them in between two little plates of glass. And on every single different plate, and the water all came from the same exact place, okay? But there's a bunch of different little like pallets of water. And on every single pallet of water, he wrote a different word on it. One, he wrote love, another peace, joy, hope. But then he wrote strife, grief, anger, depression. So there was a bunch of positive words and a bunch of negative words. And in every single little like palette that he brought up, wherever there was a good word, whether it was love or hope or peace or joy, it became like a perfect snowflake, like perfect, the way that it froze. And with the ones that said hate on it or strife on it, it would be like a partial snowflake, and then it'd be like disfigured. And it was like test after test after test after test. And the whole book is about the power of your words and how it actually can like physically and chemically affect things and alter things in your body, even outside of your body. And like so much to the point where like a droplet of water all from the same source gets disfigured just by writing words on it. And there have been studies like that done with plants and things like that, where like one plant will grow. The name of the book is Love Thyself by Masaru Emoto. It'll come up if you type in Love Thyself.
Saying it the second time did not make it any easier to get that down.
And there's tons of studies with this that people do with plants, where they'll like water a plant and then speak death over it, and water a plant and speak life. And the one that spoke life will be like way taller and green and alive. And I was seeing a theme in some of the notes about people talking about self-love. And normally we get to like a lot deeper rooted things. So like this isn't our formula for learning how to love yourself, is just speaking kind words, but it is a part of it. There is so much power in your words. The power of life and death is in the tongue. And so that just came to mind. And so I just wanted to share it with you guys. Like, when you guys are going on this journey, I want you to remember that your words are so powerful, whether it's words you're speaking to yourself, words you're thinking about other people or circumstances or situations. Everything inside of your being will come into alignment with your thoughts and your words. And so whatever you're choosing to meditate on and speak out, just remember your emotions are going to follow that, no matter what it is. And your energy in your body will follow that. And our bodies actually physically get sick whenever we're meditating on painful things, and not painful things, on negative things. And so in the process of you guys, a lot of you are going to be learning how to grieve and how to feel your pain and how to get honest with yourself. And it is a very healing, powerful part of your journey. So I'm not saying just be positive all the time. But what I am saying is, as you're going through the journey, just be mindful. Even while you're grieving, there might be times where you're like venting pain, and we're backing you on that, and it's a healthy part of your process. But remember, what you're meditating on for you is going to be really altering for your inner world. And so in the midst of this, I want you guys to hold on to like being kind to yourself and being loving and meditating on good things, so that your emotions don't feel like you are swirling all over the place.
How many of you guys have felt like the logical part of your brain has been saved for a long time, but the emotional part of your brain is like way behind?
That's real.
Because I felt like that for so much of my life. I'm like, Baptist boy, know everything. You know? I'm like, I got all the scriptures down. I can show up and worship. Like even in ministry, there's so many ways that I can show up and like, and actually encounter God over people, have prophetic things that I could give people, see like amazing miracles in prayer. And it was beautiful, honestly. And there were so many anointed moments, but I recognized in my process that there were actually, I didn't know it, but I was running away from emotions over and over and over again, running away from the pain I'd never wanted to confront, running away from the ways that God actually wanted to love me in my darkness. And that is so needed, especially if we want to give love to a dark world. Like, especially if we want to be light in a dark world, if we don't know how to meet with that ourselves, it's actually inauthentic. You know, so this is not a selfish process. This is actually an abundant process. And the more that you actually encounter love, the more you actually have to give away.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to start. A lot of you are asking about Thrive. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention it earlier. So Thrive is our program that after you're done with Come Alive, you can actually move on to Thrive. It's also a way that you can keep access to the Come Alive course for those of you who are wanting to keep going through it. But Thrive is where we have 2 guest speakers every month. We do it every other week.
People that we love and trust.
Yeah. So like we had William Paul Young, author of The Shack, come on. We've had Abby and Justin Stumble on. We're going to have a bunch of really good people. But we don't just, no, we don't. It's pretty much just speakers with Q&A at the end of it. So every time we have a speaker, there's opportunities to ask the speaker questions for an hour.
Yeah.
But Thrive is for those of you who are like, I want to keep learning and I want to learn about health and business and my emotions more and whatever else.
Yeah, but just wait.
Yeah.
Just stay here for now.
That's what it is, though, for those of you who are asking. Okay, Lacey Prophet, are you here? You're here. You can unmute yourself. Hi, Lacey.
Okay, I found it.
Hi.
Hey,
How's it going?
It's going good. I'm nervous.
Yeah.
I know.
It's okay. It's normal.
I know. It's totally normal.
Lacey, so you wrote in and you said, I feel like there's something deeper affecting my heart, but I don't know what it is. You said you're afraid of doing all this work and still feeling rejected. You want to tell us more about that?
I've actually been worried about being called on because I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to say. I've been supposed to be finishing the program, doing week 9, but I can't bring myself to do it because I feel like I haven't made any progress. I feel like I stalled out somewhere. I'm very weepy this week.
Sorry. You can cry. What are you feeling?
So much pain.
Yeah.
I feel like it's seeping from my pores. I wrote that I'm afraid I'll still be rejected after healing, but I feel like I haven't done any healing. I've just been feeling very unwanted, alone. I feel like an outcast at work. I have a really hard time with the encounters. I almost don't want to do them because I even feel rejected in my encounters. Sorry.
Sorry?
I'll be sorry for it.
Not at all. Yeah, who can relate? Will you wave your hand? If you can relate to any piece of what she said. Don't be
Yeah,
sorry.
you're still not alone. I feel that. I feel that at different times, where even after all the work we've done for 10 years, we still have moments we feel all of that. There's nothing wrong with feeling those things in your process at all. It's actually, I'm experiencing you in a really healthy place right now that you're actually feeling this stuff. I know it doesn't feel that way, but I think it's so easy to want to push that away and not actually
Face it ever.
Yeah. It's hard, but when we actually get to feel the depth of our pain and actually lean into that, that's what unlocks our ability to be loved in it. It's not having a fix that brings healing. It's actually receiving love and compassion in the areas where our heart is in pain that moves us forward. And so I know that there's definitely some things that we can walk you through.
And Lacey, first, I know, like when you wrote in, you said, I know that there's something deeper going on and I just don't know what it is. a lot of these things, and you guys have heard me say this 1,000 times if you've been around at all, and you'll hear me say it another 1,000. A lot of this stuff is effects from childhood and painful experiences that we had that we didn't get loved through well by mom and dad, or we didn't know how to navigate through it, because what little kid knows how to navigate through pain and navigate through emotions, and most parents don't know either. And then we have these wounds, and then we keep perpetuating and attracting the same things, right? So like you might have, a lot of the time there's a moment in childhood where you first experience a significant rejection, whether it's by mom or dad abandoning you, which is a huge rejection, or a little kid in the playground not playing with you when you're 5 years old. It doesn't matter how extreme or small on the spectrum it is, but once that wound gets opened up, it's like our brain is searching and waiting and trying to protect itself from rejection everywhere you go. So now for the next 20 or 30 years you're living life, that wound gets hit over and over and over again, and your brain is constantly looking for it. So this is just with the rejection example, but I just want to kind of paint a picture for you that it makes a lot of sense that you're really terrified of rejection, that you feel it at work, that you feel it in the program, that you feel like you're an outsider, that you're afraid that even after you go on a healing journey, it sounds like you're even afraid to heal, because it's like, if I heal and then I still get rejected, I'm afraid that that really means that there's something just uniquely wrong with me that makes people not want me and not love me. And I'm afraid to even try the options that I do have, because I'm so afraid that I'm still going to be the problem at the end of the day. And that is a little girl inside of your heart screaming that she's so afraid that she's not going to get love, that she's not going to get comfort, that she's not going to be wanted.
What are you feeling when she's saying all that?
It's everything that I feel. It's everything. My rejection pain comes from my father, my biological father. He wasn't in my life much growing up. I spent a few times with him, and then when I was 18, he was on the phone with my mom discussing child support, and he got on the phone with me, and he cussed me out for not staying in contact with him. And at that point in my life, I didn't realize there was an issue, but I remember being shocked that he was cursing at me. And then going through college and seeing different things, I realized watching guy friends fighting to see their children, I realized that's the way a dad is supposed to act.
Yeah.
So that's where it's started. I know that. And then I know that I desperately tried to get guys to like me and love me.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then I've ended up in 3 toxic long-term relationships with a lot of similarities with manipulation, emotional abuse. And of course, I started to see a pattern and was like, okay, what's wrong? Why do I attract these type of men? Why I'm attracted to them? I need to fix that. And that's why I'm here. But I just, of course, anytime I'm dating and there's a rejection or a ghosting, I just like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah. Makes sense.
How old were you when you heard your dad having that conversation on the phone?
18.
You're 18?
18.
Okay.
And I'm curious, Lacey, it's okay if 18 is the time that stands out to you the most, but do you remember like any other thing happening before 18 where you remember that distinct feeling of feeling rejected and unwanted and like you weren't enough?
I remember I remember him returning me early the few times I did go to see him. I don't remember the reasoning behind that. And then I remember being rejected by others, like little girl, 4 or 5 years old, in dance class, and the little girl's laughing at me, and I just never felt like I fit in anywhere.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
In different times, like where you've been in, you've been on dates or you felt like rejected by different guys, and times where you've kind of seen that played out, where you feel like that story keeps coming back to tell you that this is about you, that this is your fault, that it's, that you're the problem. How do you normally respond? Like, what do you do in those moments? What are the ways that you protect yourself from that pain?
Oh, I don't know. I disassociate. I seek approval and from friends, from guy friends. I just wait until I start feeling better. I don't.
Yeah. So it's like a really powerless feeling, it sounds like, in those moments where it's like, I don't even know what to do here. I'm just so stuck in this story, and all I can feel like is I've seen these dads that really chose their kids well, and mine didn't choose me, over and over again, and it feels like it's because of me. If all these other dads could do it, then it must have been my fault that my dad didn't choose me. And I think, when you start believing that and you see and experience that with men, it's so easy to create a case for that over and over again. That makes so much sense. I'm so sorry. I just want to say first, hearing your heart in this, like hearing your pain in this, I don't actually have any desire to be away from it. Like it's really beautiful getting to experience this part of you. Like as a man, I've experienced a lot of women that have carried rejection where I'm like, I can feel like I don't want to be here. And that's like the energy that they're putting off because it's very strong. But it's really easy to actually see how lovable you are in this state right now, and to just hear your heart in it, to hear your pain in it. And as a man, I'm like, oh, I love hearing this stuff. Like I really care to hear this stuff. And if I were your dad, and I'm not saying that your dad sounds really unhealthy, but if I were your dad, this would be like treasure, hearing this stuff. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I get to see into my daughter's world and get to actually experience her pain. And I just wanted to tell you, like, this is a really delightful and lovable experience of me hearing this, like hearing your heart in it. Yeah. If you could just close your eyes, Lacey, I'd love to just walk you through some. Anybody else that has felt an experience like that with their dad, or can resonate with the story at all, or maybe just some of that statement or that story of like, I think it's
by dad.
or feeling like it's your fault when people leave, or when people don't want you, or it's a story about you. If that's you at all, just go ahead and close your eyes and actually just connect with your own pain. And you can even put your hand on your heart. Sometimes it just helps me to be aware of like emotional part of my brain and to stay away from like logic. I'm going to be saying some things over Lacey and asking her some different questions, but I want you to actually, anybody else that's feeling that, I want you to engage in your own story and answer those questions for yourself. And actually just know that God is in your process too. But Lacey, I want you to feel all of the things that you came onto the call feeling. I know it's scary. I know it's painful. If you could connect with some of that pain that you feel that's coming up, and even that pain of like, even I'm scared that even if I get healed and I get healing, that I still won't be enough for someone to want me. connect to that pain, but I want you to put yourself back into that moment. You're hearing mom and dad talking on the phone, just what you're picking up on. Let yourself go there. Can you just let me know when you feel like you're there?
There, I still remember what the room looks like.
Yeah. And can you give me just some more details about, like, are you sitting or standing? Like, maybe you can describe what's happening.
I was standing. My mom was sitting at the computer. And they were on the phone, and he wanted to talk to me, and she handed the phone to me. I was standing behind her.
And what was going on in you when she handed you the phone? Were you excited to connect with dad? Like, what was going on in you?
I think I was apprehensive because I already knew that there was some tension between him and my mom with the child support.
Did you feel like a burden, or what did you feel like in that, even before the phone got to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you feel that with just dad, or did you also feel that with mom, or what was going on?
I don't like to be the source of issues.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be the problem.
Mm. So all of their pain and their frustration, it was your fault. Yeah. And I want you just to remember what it felt like when mom handed you the phone and what dad was saying to you. Did it go to another level, like that pain that you were feeling?
I was in shock. I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Why was it my fault? Why was it my job to be in contact with him?
You were just 18 at the time. And it hadn't prepared you for adulthood. It's a really painful way to be sent off.
Lacey, initiating connection with your dad was never your responsibility. It wasn't on you. Your dad felt guilty. He felt inadequate. He felt like he wasn't doing enough for you. He felt like he wasn't enough of a man to be your dad. He didn't know how to bridge the gap. He didn't know how to express his anger. He didn't know how to express his frustration. And he projected all of that onto you, Lacey, and it was never actually your responsibility. You were supposed to be able to be a little girl. I don't care if you were 18 or 5. You were supposed to be a little girl who got pursued by her daddy who loved her. Dad was supposed to call and check in on her every day. She needed to be fought for. She needed dad to call mom when she was visiting him and say, "Can I just have her for another day? another week, for another hour. I'd love to spend more time with her. I haven't seen her. Is there any way I can spend more time? Is there any way we can renegotiate this? I just want to be with my little girl. I just want to be with my little girl. That's what your heart needed, Lacey. And I'm so sorry that because you weren't pursued, because he didn't fight for you, that you put that responsibility on yourself and you said, what must be wrong with me that I'm not worth being fought for and loved and pursued? What else can I do different? How can I change? How can I fix this? And Lacey, you took on over responsibility that day and you decided that you weren't worthy of love. You made the choice because dad didn't know how to love you, that you weren't good enough. You made the choice that you weren't lovable. You made a relationship with that belief, just an attempt to protect yourself from the pain of dad's rejection. It was your armor.
And just while you're in that moment, while you're still in that room, while you're still connecting with this, I want you to see older Lacey walk into the room. Let me know when you can see her. This is present day Lacey. I want you to let me know when you can see her walk in.
I see her.
And I want to talk to older Lacey for a second. Older Lacey, when you see younger Lacey in that pain, how do you feel looking at her?
Angry.
Yeah. What else?
I wanna protect her.
Yeah. What else?
I wanna hug her.
Mm-hmm.
Tell her there's nothing wrong with her. And that she's beautiful and she has a beautiful heart.
Do you think maybe you've been telling her the opposite for a long time? Yeah. You mind if you repeat a few things after me to her?
And for those of you that are in that space with your memory from your childhood, I want you to see yourself walking up to your younger self. And I want you to speak out the same things that Spencer's going to have Lacey repeat.
Younger Lacey,
I'm sorry.
what I'm going to have you do is I'm actually going to have you mute yourself, Lacey. So I'm going to go ahead and do it, okay? And I want you just to repeat after me. I want you to repeat after me to younger Lacey the things that I'm saying, okay? Younger Lacey, I've told you that you're the problem. For so many years, I partnered with the lie that people didn't want you because of you. And it wasn't fair for me to make that all your responsibility. I told you that you were broken and disqualified from love and relationship. I told you that it wasn't dad's fault, that it was your fault. And younger Lacey, I've been shaming you and I've been bullying you And I've been mean to you for a long time. And I am so sorry. It was never your fault. You were never the problem. Dad didn't do a good job in that moment. He didn't do a good job a lot of times. And that wasn't your fault. Kids aren't supposed to take care of their parents. It wasn't your responsibility for them to manage themselves well and to be good parents. And I lied to you. And I told you you were a burden. And younger Lacey, you have permission to feel mad at Dad for a bit. To let go of the blame. To let go of blaming yourself. And anything else you want to tell her, Lacey, I want you to tell her that, and I want you to give her a big hug. Anything else you need to tell her? I want you to see the Father walk in. I want you to see God the Father walk in. He's so much different than your dad. He carries himself so differently. You're going to see it on his face. I want you to let me know when you can see him.
I want everyone to close their eyes right now. It doesn't matter to me if you go back to a memory where you needed love, or if you want to see God come into the room that you're in right now. But God actually gave you your imagination because he wanted to encounter you. He created that. Maybe in the past you've used your imagination for bad or for fantasy, but your imagination's actually a gift. So I want you to open yourself up and see him walk into the room with you. And while you're here, Lacey and everyone else, I want you to pay attention to all of your senses. What you see with your mind's eye, what you smell, what you feel on your skin, what you sense in the room, what you taste. What's he saying to you? What's he doing? What does he look like in the room?
Lacey, what are you noticing?
He's smiling so big. He's hugging both younger Lacey and older Lacey.
Mm-hmm.
A big hug.
Do you feel more connected to younger Lacey, to being in younger Lacey's shoes, or older Lacey's shoes right now?
Older.
Mm-hmm. I want you to ask him, Father, when Dad didn't want me,
Dad didn't want me.
was that my responsibility?
Was that my responsibility?
What do you say?
He said, "No, child." And he just hugged me tighter.
I want you to ask him, am I lovable?
Am I lovable? So lovable.
I want you to ask him, how are you loving me in that moment when I couldn't see it?
How are you loving me in that moment when I couldn't see it? I don't know.
I want you to ask him again, Lacey, how have you been loving me?
How have you been loving me?
Okay. I want you to try asking, God, what's blocking me?
God, what's blocking me? Me.
What are you afraid of, Lacey?
I'm sorry.
What are you afraid of?
That even God will reject me.
Hmm.
Why don't you ask him, God, will you reject me?
God, will you reject me? He's knelt down and he has my hand. He's looking up at me. It's almost like he's pleading with me. He's saying, no. I'll never reject you.
I want you to ask him, even in my worst,
And I said, no. He's crying too.
he's crying too. Yeah. I think that might be what he was doing the whole time with you. I want you to ask him one more time, God, how are you loving me?
God, how are you loving me? I hear family. The rest of my family.
I want you to remember what you're feeling and what you're hearing from him in this moment, Lacey, and just connect with it. Because what we're walking you through is that there's two people that really wanted to give you new truth. And God wanted to give you new truth, but you actually needed to reconcile it with yourself, with younger Lacey, because for a long time you've been trying to protect her by beating her up before she can feel the pain of other people rejecting her. You've been trying to protect her by
Deciding that you weren't lovable.
because if you can decide that first, then maybe it'll hurt less. And now you get to have this experience where you get to hear something different. And you get to build a new case for what's actually happening and who you are and what it means in relationship. How you feeling after that experience, Lacey?
At rest, but also exhausted.
Yeah.
Whew, I feel drained.
I know, I felt the same way. It's easy for me to dissociate a lot. And for people that dissociate from emotions feel like a place where we're going to be alone forever and that they'll never be better. And so it's so much easier to just not feel. And I think it's felt so painful that you've been stuck in just feeling for a bit. But that's actually really, really good. It's a healthy stage that you've been going through. And I think your heart's ready to start actually adopting new truths, not logically, like on an emotional level, which is really good.
One thing that I loved is anytime that there's a block. So when we asked God, like, where have you been? How have you been loving me? And you couldn't hear anything. We ask in a little bit of a different way, you can't hear anything. I automatically, whenever I can't connect to truth or hear God's voice, or when I can't receive something that someone else is saying to me, I know that my protector just came back up. There's this thing, even your rejection issues, like, would you say that you struggle with rejection? Safe to say. You actually don't have rejection issues. You have issues believing that you're loved. The rejection issue is actually just the protector from the core thing that I'm not lovable. But what I love is when that protector came back up and you couldn't even hear where God had been loving you. The second, you guys can do this in your own time and space all of the time. That's why I love this process that all of you guys are getting to glean from at one time, because these are all really replicable tools that you could do with yourself and eventually with other people. But the second that protector comes back up, all you have to do is, God, what's blocking me? Oh, me. Okay, what about me? Oh, I'm afraid that God's going to reject me. Oh, okay, God, are you going to reject me? So your greatest fear is probably that God will reject you. Second greatest fear is that you will reject you. Third greatest fear is that people will reject you. But what you did by letting Spence lead you to, God, will you reject me, is you faced your fear head on. The answer that you're terrified of hearing, their like response from God from you asked it. And when we ask that from God, you actually get to quit bowing to your fear. Your fear stops having power over you when you don't bow anymore. So I love that you disarmed that by actually leaning into that in that moment. And anytime, Lacey, because this, you will probably have an internal like shift and breakthrough that happened because of this. And I bet that there are going to be things that are forever different in you. But a lot of the process is going to be you stewarding what we just walked you through and figuring out, how do I multiply this in my own life? The second I have rejection that comes up again, the second I start believing I'm not lovable, how do I go back to younger Lacey and remind her how loved she is? How do I give her compassion for the pain that she walked through? How do I tell her and remind her that no matter what I do, no matter how messy I am, that God's never going to reject me and that I'm done rejecting me?
Like, you don't even actually have permission to forgive your dad until you recognize that he was to blame in that. Because you've blamed yourself this whole time. And the story that you've partnered with is it was always Lacey's fault, when it was actually your dad failed. Your dad actually failed that had nothing to do with you. And so there needs to be a healthy grieving of like, I need to be able to feel angry at dad so that I can forgive him. But you won't be able to forgive unless you go through that process of going like, where is actual responsibility in this? It wasn't mine. I was just a kid.
So homework for everyone that this applies to, because a lot of this healing will come from you stewarding the things that you gleaned. Every time you experience that pain of feeling unwanted, or the pain of rejection, or the fear of rejection, or believing you're not lovable, every time that pain pops up again, which it will, because you're a human and we're all dysfunctional, every time it comes up again, I want you to remember there's a little girl that's hurting in me. You can write this down. There's a little girl that's hurting in me. She needs to be reminded that she's loved and that she's wanted. This for me has been life-changing. I tried speaking declarations over myself for years, you guys. Logically. And it wasn't until I could get to like emotionally, what we don't feel, we don't heal. Okay, so if you experience the pain of rejection and then you try to slap some truths onto it, it's not actually going to bring any resolve. But if you let yourself feel the pain of rejection and get back to that little girl that first started feeling that pain of believing she wasn't loved, and in that place, when you're emotionally connected to it, close your eyes and see her, walk up to her and speak over her. I've always loved you and I've always wanted you. I will always love you. I will always want you. I'm so sorry mom and dad didn't know how to show you that. I'm so sorry that I told you for so many years that you weren't wanted or that you weren't lovable. And you could even bring God. The goal is to get love poured in from every source that you can. You're mostly powerful to get that met with God and yourself in this season, unless you show up to coaching calls or reach out to the girls in the community where people are able to help you in this. But the goal is to get like shove as much love into you as we can in the areas where you need it the most, instead of just like feeling the I'm not lovable and then sitting in the pain and feeling that over and over again. It's like, no, feel it, grieve it, pour love into it, move on.
It reminded me of Abby Stumble is really good friends with Sammy, and she does this thing where she'll like push different parts of Sammy's body. And I asked her, I was like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm pushing love in.
She'll do this. if I'm like ever grieving and she's loving me through something, she'll just be like,
I'm pushing love in. It's like the funniest thing. The question, I wanted to answer this question real quick. What if dad has loved you, but also rejected you? It's difficult to be angry at somebody who also loves you deeply. Yeah.
You can get angry. Oh, sorry, go.
You can, yeah.
Don't monopolize.
It doesn't, you're not invalidating all the good that someone brought into your life when you feel something. It's like if Sammy, who I'm in love with, is my wife, if she causes me big pain, I'm not gonna shove all my emotions and just be like, well, I'm not gonna be angry at her because I love her. That's not actually a healthy relationship. I don't actually invite her into a place where I can trust her again if I don't allow her to respond to my pain. Yeah. So if your dad does love you, it's actually probably a really good thing to bring up that pain with him. Mm-hmm. If you have more security, if you have safe relationship with your dad, that's a really good conversation to bring up.
Yeah.
My dad was a drunk and was disconnected until I was 15 years old. And we have been bridging connection a lot recently. But I had to feel that pain, and I had to actually recognize where he was responsible for the places where I didn't know that I was good enough, because he never showed up in the ways that I needed it.
And here's the thing, like, you don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Like, if you don't ever get to grieve the areas that your dad has failed you and caused you pain, it doesn't mean he is a failure or he is an awful dad. But like, if you don't actually get to grieve the areas where he has failed you, because he's not God, so he has failed you, you actually don't get to fully embrace the love either. You don't want to just have one or the other. You want to be like, he loves me and also he calls me pain. And so I'm going to let myself feel that, and I'll be able to embrace and enjoy the love more. So you want to hold both of the truths that happened in tension.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Awesome. Next question.
we're gonna move on. Lacey, thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for putting your whole heart on display for everyone to see. And it was really precious and really beautiful. And I feel
This
like it
is
was just a
this is
gift.
honestly the most beautiful part of you.
Yeah.
Like your heart and where you're at and all of that. Like if I were a man that was in a relationship with you, or if I was a dad, if I had more closeness with you, I would just be like, that was so sacred. How cool that I got to see and experience that. Like that is really gold stuff. And I think it's beautiful that you're feeling it, that you're not dissociating, that you're allowing yourself to feel the pain of it, and then you're actually adopting, like you just walked through, giving new, like bringing in new truths into your biggest pain.
You're gonna sleep good tonight.
It's awesome. Yeah, right. Who needs melatonin when you can have an encounter in your biggest pain?
I love it. You're so dorky and
I'm
cute.
totally dorky.
Okay. I'll let you
Super dorky.
you read both of those really quick and decide which direction you want to go. How was that for everyone? Did it? No, you read. I'll talk. You
Well, I want to
look at the
engage with
screen.
them. Okay.
Do it.
But I like them.
But who actually encountered God and had a connection with your younger self during that? You can wave at the camera too, answer it in the chat. Yes. Okay. For those of you who did encounter God and your younger self, either one, did it take you a while to learn how to start doing this and like get these tools for yourself while we're walking someone else through something? Did it take you some time to figure out how to make this work for you? Yeah. Wave at the camera if that's true for you. Yeah. Yeah. At least half of you. So for those of you,
I just sprayed all over my face. And I gotta tell you, it's pretty refreshing.
oh, I love this. Aaron said this is the
Just got
first.
baptized.
Wait,
Sorry.
Aaron said that this is the first time I've tried it and I saw Jesus immediately. I love that. So fun.
That's a huge win.
I'm still not sure how to do encounters. That's okay. It's normal. This, you guys, like
Sometimes me neither.
your 6 months with us, it's not gonna, like, this is not a quick fix or like wham bam, thank you ma'am. It's not just done here. Like this is a journey, and that's why it's phenomenal if you can show up as much as possible, because your heart needs time. It's going to take time to learn how to feel and learn how to be open and learn how to actually apply things. And the more you get exposure to it, the easier it will be. It's okay if you're skeptical.
Skeptical. You should definitely be
You're
skeptical
allowed to be
of our
skeptical.
grammar.
It's okay if you guys have doubts, or if you are wondering, is this for me, or can God even encounter me? Does God even talk to me? It's okay if you're wrestling. I just encourage you to lean in, because the more you lean in, the more you'll actually realize I can surrender to this, and good is going to be coming for me.
What I had to do, because I can be really, really skeptical, and what I had to get real with is that nothing that I tried before worked. And so if I can get real with, nothing that I was doing before worked, so I'm willing to keep moving forward and testing and trying new things, then, that's what actually allowed me to keep leaning in, because honestly, I mean, if you remain skeptical, if you don't try new things, if you let that thought win, then you'll just keep looping around with the same things over and over and over again. So if you're here and you're in this process right now, you might as well lean in as much as possible. So you can actually, like, if you are skeptical, lean in as much as possible so you can prove yourself right.
The worst thing that'll happen is nothing. That's good news. Like, you don't actually have anything to risk, except like your life could totally change. So did you read those yet? Or are you just lollygagging saying inspirational things over here, being all cute and impactful?
I like this question. Rosalind Long. Is Rosalind here?
Rosalind. Hi.
Hey,
How you doing?
good. little nervous. This is my first coaching. So.
You did it. It's okay to be nervous.
That's awesome. Thanks for being brave.
So, Rosalind, you were saying you feel like you don't have a voice for yourself. You speak out loud in third person. I try to not laugh at that. When I was reading it, I was like, she speaks out loud in third person. Sam really likes to drink water. Loud in third person, as in we or us, because there's a fear of what others will think or say when you have a voice and owns your opinion. How do you take ownership for your voice again?
Yeah, I would love to hear kind of just how that manifests. So like when you're saying I speak in the third person, like what does that look like? Just so I can understand a little bit more.
I'm not sure exactly if I wrote that right, but kind of, I guess it's almost like I'm talking about myself, but I'm not really. It's like it's not really what I'm feeling. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Can I have a recent example? I also feel like I'm getting the gist of what you're saying. I just want more information.
Okay. I guess I'm feeling like I feel like because I'm using that language, just the awareness of that it means I'm really disconnected from myself. And I was in a little bit of context. I've always been really close with my family. So I feel like maybe that's part of me, like saying we as a family instead of what I actually think. And I was in a relationship for a long time also. And I got so used to saying we and us. And now after I'm out of that relationship, I've been out of it for a few years, but I'm still catching myself saying that. And I'm still trying to react as though I'm in a relationship when I'm not. And I'm trying to figure out what my voice is, I guess, what I actually think, what I feel about certain things, and would I actually want to say yes to that. And I don't know.
That sounds like a great process that you're on already. And I also love how much awareness you have in that.
How did you become aware that you don't value your voice? Like what are some things that made you aware you don't value your voice?
What are some things that made me aware I don't value my voice? Kind of drawing a little bit of blank on that. That's a good question.
Here's another question. What would you having a voice and owning your voice look like? So like, what are some different areas that you want to show up more with a voice?
I want to show up more in being bold with my faith, sharing that with people, speaking up to my family, because we believe different things now. And even in work and in other relationships, I don't speak up as much as I need to. Just all the time, I feel like I'm always suppressing my voice and not speaking my opinions, because I'm like, well, somebody else will have a better one. And yeah.
What do you think would happen if you did give yourself a voice? Like, what are you afraid of?
I think I'm afraid of people rejecting me or being judged. Mm-hmm. Or even offending people. I can get, and maybe that's me shaming and judging myself for that, not actually what other people think.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's almost like if I can be silent and just let someone else take the floor and let someone else have an opinion for me, then that will protect me from rejection and from judgment, which is really the fear of rejection would be in that judgment, because we're afraid if people judge me, then that means that they'll reject me and they won't want me. It sounds like at some point in time you learned, if I lose my voice, it's actually the way that I get connection with people, that I get connection with family, that I get connection with my boyfriend. And maybe connection isn't the thing that the word that stands out to you. Is there something else that stands out to you? Like, if I'm silent, then I get blank.
Acceptance.
Yeah. Mm. Do you remember a time when you were younger where you did give yourself a voice and you did express yourself and something painful happened?
A time when I expressed myself and something painful happened, you said? I feel like there's a lot of times.
Yeah. Is there one in particular that stands out to you?
I think not a particular time, but just kind of a theme of being around friends. And I would I would say something and they would think it was weird or wouldn't connect with it. So I didn't really feel like I was seen or understood in that moment. And I feel like no one would really ever accept me for who I was or understand my real thoughts.
Yeah.
That makes a ton of sense. And that's super cool.
I have a few practicals,
Okay.
and you can take it any direction that you
Okay.
pause. Do you have I don't know if I want to get her into logic yet. So if you have a direction you want to go, I think I want you to do that. I'll get practicals.
Have you done any work around some of those experiences where you just had mentioned like, oh, there's a lot of painful experiences where I've shown up with a voice and I wasn't understood, I wasn't heard. You know, like have you done any work around those moments, or have you connected with that pain?
I start to connect with it and then I shut down really easy. It's really hard for me to open up that part of it. And I find myself, I'll be like, I'll just check social media or something and
Yeah.
disconnect from it really fast.
Yeah.
Raise your hand.
It feels,
Totally. That was like me to a T. And man, my peeps. Like this, it would make so much sense too that feels like such an option if the real pain too is like people actually don't understand me or get me. Like people don't see me. And if I share, they still won't get me. You know, so what's the point of letting people in? But what's also the point of feeling? You know, if I'm gonna feel things, because if that's the belief that nobody's gonna get me, nobody's gonna understand me no matter what I do.
Why would you have a voice?
Why would you feel? It would be like, okay, I have to say everything right all the time. If I do open my mouth, it has to be backed by either a bunch of people that agree with me, or it has to be backed by a bunch of logical evidence. So I can stay in logic and protect myself from that deep, deep loneliness. That is really alone. I like when I was hearing you say that, I actually immediately felt so sad at my own story, and I felt sad for you that there's this whole part of your heart and your life that people don't get to see or experience.
So
There's this whole part of you that feels so terrifying to let people into it. You know, it's like the gold that's inside of you. You have to protect yourself from people seeing that, because they just might not get it, or they might judge you, or they might leave you, or they might see that as like, oh, you know, that was really wrong and that was really messed up, and I can't believe that she's feeling that. And or they might just assume things that you're not even feeling at all, and you'll just feel like, I tried to open myself up, but I was missed again, and now I'm lonely again. And that's really scary. Like, do you feel like you can connect with some of those fears or some of that pain?
Yeah, definitely. And I think part of me feels like I'll never open myself up to let other people see that. But I want to. Just feeling these feelings and getting to that point, loving myself so that I can get there.
Yeah. What are some things that do you have any, you were talking about opinions, you were talking about feelings, like, what are the things that you feel most scared of talking about?
Um, I think some of it would be church. Um, I grew up in a very judgmental church, very different. Um, so we didn't have a lot of open conversations about just life in general, about what purity means, what sex means. Just so when you're out there in the real world, it's just thrown at you. And I'm saying that again. When I was out in the real world, I just got thrown into it, and I felt like I wasn't prepared for anything. And I didn't have anybody to talk to about it.
That makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like church was really one of those places, and family, where it sounds like church and family were a couple of those places where you felt like, really I was taught what to think and not how to think. And that's really hard, because it leaves you going, oh, I have to agree with everybody around me if I'm to be accepted, and I'm actually not allowed to challenge things or ask questions or think about things differently, and in these types of settings, really feelings aren't that important, because there's just a right and wrong way to do things. So there's not really any room for feelings. And so if I want to survive here and have any level of connection, I have to stay completely in logic.
Yeah, exactly. There wasn't a free space to feel, and you just didn't question authority in the church. You just did it just because. And it was almost weird if you had emotions.
Yeah. It sounds to me like there are a lot of areas throughout your life. Here's what I want for you. This is some of my logistics. And for anyone else who relates with this, it sounds like there are a lot of pockets throughout your childhood where your voice needed to be heard and validated, but instead it got dismissed and then you shut it down to protect yourself. And kind of like what we did with, I think that you have been disconnecting when at times to go west. Wow, words, English, English language. I think whenever it's time for you to go into encounters, I'm going to get there, and you dissociate and you go to social media, my guess is that you're afraid of the outcome, because feeling pain in the past has led to you just being lonely. A huge theme I see in you not having a voice is that you're left in aloneness and in loneliness. And so every time you go to feel or go into an encounter, you're like, no, I'm going to dissociate and disconnect from this, because this is going to put me back into aloneness again, and that feels too painful. So I'd rather go to social media and do something that feels like connection with people. It sounds like there are a lot of pockets throughout your childhood where you got dismissed, where you were misunderstood, where you didn't have a voice, and where you were judged. And all of those moments and memories that you remember, what I want for you, for anyone who's connecting with this, is to spend at least an hour this week, maybe tomorrow. Spend at least an hour with a journal in front of you, like laying on the floor, laying on your bed, and write down like a note that reminds you of a memory or all of the memories that you can think of. And I want you to close your eyes and step back into that memory where you remember trying to have a voice. Even like I have silly things because I can actually relate with you. It used to be really hard for me to have a voice, you guys. Someone would ask me about myself or my day or whatever it was, and I would talk really, really quickly. And then I would give no detail, no information. And a lot of the time, if I noticed someone's attention span drop at all, I would like cut off what I was saying in the middle of my sentence. And I'd be like, never mind. I would just stop talking. Shut up. You didn't even know me. You didn't even know me when it was bad.
No, there were still just remnants that I could see that was your experience growing up.
There are
early in our
moments,
marriage.
still, it happens very rarely and I can catch it now, but there are moments if I feel like he's disengaged with what I'm saying, I'll just be like, never mind. Or I'll be like, cool. And I'll just wait for his attention. But there are moments that, for example, one of my sisters stole my other sister's bra or thong when I was like 8, hid it in my drawer after she was done. And then I got punished because they found the thong in an 8-year-old's drawer. And so I would get punished and like spanked for stealing. And there are all these moments in my childhood where I would try to have a voice and no one would hear me. And I'd get misunderstood in all these situations. And then I'd get punished for it. And so I had this huge theme of just feeling misunderstood my whole life because it felt like no matter what I said, it didn't matter anyways. And so what I would do is go back into those memories and moments because for me, like for you, Rosalind, there's a little girl that needed to be heard, seen, and validated. Even if someone didn't agree, I have conversations with people all the time where I'm like, I like your opinion. I don't agree with you. Or like, hey, here's my opinion. You don't have to agree. Maybe it's just me. This is just what I think. I disclaim things like that. I'm good with it. But there's a bunch of needs that went unmet in your childhood. And what I want you to do is spend an hour going through every memory that you can, closing your eyes and saying, Rosalind, I'm sorry you felt rejected in that moment. Your opinion mattered to me. Your voice matters.
Like almost like you're writing a letter to a 4-year-old Rosalind or writing a letter to 7-year-old Rosalind. You know, like there's going to be different parts of you that you're like, oh my gosh, I actually need to start. It's like you need to start giving the parts of you early on in your life a voice where you felt shut down so that you can almost mature this part of you. It's like I've had to do that in so many areas where I'm like, I'm definitely adult in this area, but I feel like a 3-year-old here, you know, like, and that's still, there's still stuff like inviting Sammy into my pain, super hard, you know, so
for all of the areas where you had pain and because you didn't have a voice, I want you to go back in and give yourself a voice and validate the pain. So that might look like in a moment where someone was really rude and shut you down, that might look like in a memory you saying, hey, my voice matters. What I have to say is important. I deserve to be heard here. I want you to fight for yourself and give yourself compassion and validate yourself and be like, Rosalind, I'm so proud of you for having a voice. What you think and what you feel and your beliefs about things are so important. And I want you to chip away. You can close your eyes and do encounters and you can take notes on the encounters or even write those things to yourself like it's a letter. But I want you to start implementing that in past memories. And that's just one way that I want you to start kind of exercising that muscle of giving yourself a voice.
And you can also just be like, you actually don't have to get it right. And what you have to share doesn't have to be perfect for it to matter to me. Like Sammy can have crazy emotions and I'm still like, I want to hear this. Like, I need to hear this. It's important for me to know this stuff.
Sometimes I'm crazy. I'm actually not crazy.
No, but it's important to me. It doesn't have to be perfect for it to be important to me.
But that's validation. Him even saying that to me in moments is him validating me. If he didn't say it to me, I need to say it to me. And so go through and I want you, like my goal is getting you to exercise your voice just with past memories. But another thing that I want you to start doing is I want you to start like journaling and documenting and being specific about your beliefs about things. I want this. I believe this. I desire this for my life. Here's what I think about this. Start journaling, and that's another baby step. And then I want you to like step out in an area.
I have an
Maybe-
idea for this.
Okay, go.
So I think it would be so cool if you actually shared, like once you become aware of some different things, or it could be emotional stuff, it could be pain, it could be something that feels vulnerable, where you're like, I don't want people to know about this. You can even go into the Facebook community, like in the Come Alive Facebook group,
Becca said it, yeah.
Yep. and just be like, hey, this is actually really scary for me to do this. And so here are some things I just wanted to share. I've noticed I haven't given myself a voice for a lot of my life.
I don't
But I
need
wanted-
you to agree with me. It's okay if you disagree. You
Yeah.
don't have to tell me. This is not about right or wrong or us debating opinions. This is about me having a voice.
But here's what I'm most scared of while sharing this. And then just let people love you. Let people comment. And then walk through some of that stuff on the other side of it too. Like, okay, what's coming up in me after this?
How's that sound?
Okay. That sounds good. I can do that. I love journaling, so I have been doing a lot of that. So that sounds like a good place to start. And I'll share my results in the Facebook group as they come up.
And once that feels easy for you to post like your opinions on the Facebook group, I want you to pick a person in your life to do that with.
Okay.
You're like, hey, I just want. And I even noticed like when you corrected yourself with something that you said earlier, you were talking about like in our culture this, and you're like, no, I this. Even things like that, you catching yourself and you being aware and mindful, that's a really good tool to start using. But like, and for someone else to ask what the mantras were, my voice matters. What I think matters. What I feel matters. My beliefs matter. My opinions matter. I would say that stuff to myself all of the time. And now I just don't actually question it. I'm just like, whether it's right, whether it's wrong, whether you like it, whether you don't, this is what I think. I'm almost like, I'm dominant in it now. Where before, am I not?
Yeah.
There are a lot of times where you're like, sometimes I feel like I just have to agree with you because you're so strong in your opinion about something. And I'm like,
Oh.
you could disagree any day of the week. I
We
don't care.
were turning down this road the other day, and she's like, no, you should go this way. And I was like, I want to go this way. I don't care that it goes slower. I want to do this because I want to do this. She's like, okay.
There's literally no internal energy in it. I just have a strong voice. It was just like, no, this is the wrong way. He's like, no, I like this view better. And I was like, oh, cool, let's go.
She was like, I like that you did that. And I was like, oh, thanks.
I'm just strong, you guys. You gotta reel her in. Rosalind, did that feel helpful for you?
Yes, that was helpful. Thank you.
You're on a good track.
I know it's like
Keep going.
super simple, but
That's okay. Simple is good for me.
me too.
About which one?
That's great. That's a good
Is
one.
Brianna Anderson here? Brianna. Maybe she's not here. Isn't that the worst when your name gets called on and you're not there for it? Brianna, if you're watching this recording, we love you. So sorry you missed out. Is Jacqueline Van Heerden here? Van Heerden.
Yes, I'm here.
Hello. Jacqueline, so you wrote in and you said, I told my dad over Christmas a bunch of things I dealt with as a child. Your response was that
No, his response.
his response, thank you, babe, was that he had no idea and you felt guilty ever since for putting that on him. You feel a pull to fix things with dad because of this, but you don't want to act out of codependency.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out, what do I want connection with him. I felt disconnected from him most of my life. I feel like the last 5 years, I've been really working on building that. And so now I'm feeling disconnected, but it's on my end, not his. And I don't know what I want from him. I don't know what I'm trying to like. Yeah, I don't know what I want. I feel on one end where I fully see his side, where I'm like, my reaction to not being seen and or heard was to perform. And so in his opinion, I was super happy, contented. He thought everything was great with me because I buried all the pain. So I feel very conflicted because I'm like, I can't blame him, but I don't know what I want from him. I don't know what I'm trying. I don't even know what I'm trying to communicate to him. So I feel very conflicted in it.
Makes sense.
Totally.
I mean, I first want to address what you wrote in, because I think it's amazing that you gave yourself a voice. And I love that I mean, even him just saying, I had no idea that you were going through that. That to me sounds like it was a compassionate response, was it? Did it feel invalidating, or was he like, oh gosh, I didn't even understand that you were experiencing that. I'm so sorry.
I think it was a bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah, because there was some like, because I was bullied by my sisters, same thing, he had no idea. And he kind of expressed like, I've always been the one who stands up for those who are bullied. So he did express that. So yeah, there was definitely some compassion in there. I think there was a little bit of defense as well, but
That's normal.
yeah.
I mean, your puzzledness and your frustration over like, I don't even know what I want from him right now. I don't know how to get it. I don't know how to get connection. That makes sense, because it sounds like you took a really amazing step in sharing with him and in opening up that conversation. And I think you exploring, like, which we'll get there right now, but like you exploring what you need from him and communicating that to him would be really helpful, because it sounds like you opened up a can of worms. Where did she go? Oh, there's your face. It sounds like you opened up a can of worms, but didn't really get the validation or love and compassion that you needed, which at least from experience, it's been like very much so trial and error with my parents, or like sometimes they'll respond good on something, the other time they check out, sometimes they're really validating, the other time my dad's like throwing a fit over whatever it is and he's defensive. So I think first it's okay if it takes several attempts. And also I think you getting to figure out like, oh, I think I actually really needed him like to be compassionate with me. I think I needed to hear from him like, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I'm so sorry that I didn't know about that this whole time. I'm so sorry that I didn't, whatever your pain is towards him. I'm so sorry I didn't pursue connection with you the way that you wanted it. Or whatever the things are, like, I'd love for you to explore what are the things that I'm craving to hear from my dad.
Mm-hmm.
What am I craving? Go ahead.
I think I would agree with those statements, like almost that, I don't know if it's that taking of ownership or just that validating.
Mm-hmm.
But then I feel like, how can I expect that of him when he was such a great dad? He had no idea, like.
I mean, even you're not bad for wanting that, first off. I can feel that there's that shame of like, I'm not allowed to feel this way because he was so good. But him hearing that, like there are a lot of times if I just give Spencer feedback on the things that have caused me pain, or if I just tell him things that I'm needing, he'll hear a deficit. He'll hear that he hasn't been doing enough. So it's really helpful for me in moments to be like, you've been so present. You've been so connected. You've been pursuing me like crazy. I actually feel so loved by you, and you've been such an amazing husband. But there are some things that I want to bring up, and there's this and this and that. And I just wanted to invite you in because I want more connection with you. This is like conversations we have. I want more connection with you in these areas. I'm not trying to give you a report of where you weren't enough. I'm just trying to invite you into areas I want more connection. So that could, with dad, sound like, Dad, you were such a good dad. I almost feel guilty for having these conversations because I want to just defend you, but I want you to know that you were amazing and you tried so hard. And I understand that you couldn't be perfect, but I want more connection with you. And so it's actually my goal to share with you things that I'm wanting and needing in relationship with you, because I want more connection with you. And so I want to invite you into that.
Like, it would make sense that you'd want disconnect on your side if it doesn't feel like there's a safe landing pad for him to get all of you. Because it sounds like I feel safe to encourage him, but I don't feel safe to share my pain with him without him making it about him and feeling shame over it. And so in an effort to protect him from his shame, I'm not going to show up fully. And if you can't show up fully, you're going to want to avoid that, because that doesn't feel like safe connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think what Sammy is saying is really good, but it's going, okay, if I felt safe in this relationship, what would I want? Connection. You know, if I felt like dad would respond really well, what would I really want? You know, if I felt like dad was completely taken care of and good on his side and able to manage himself fully, express his needs, what would my needs be? Because a really healthy connection is I matter, you matter.
Mm-hmm.
Unhealthy connection is where I matter and you don't matter, or you matter and I don't matter. And that's how a lot of codependency is formed, right? And so where a really healthy, safe relationship is you matter and I matter. And so I want to find out how to invite you, Dad, because I want connection. I want you to know about my pain. I want you to hear about how my childhood was. I want to let you into things that I hid from you. Like, what I can take ownership for, Dad, is that I was really good at hiding this. I was really good at putting on a good face. I was really good at making it look like everything was okay.
And
Because I didn't know what else to do.
And
I didn't
because
know
of
how to
that,
do
I
that
missed
right.
out on connection with you because I never knew how to let you in.
But I don't want to have to hide this stuff, because I really want you to know about it, because it's really important to me for you to know about these things.
Does that feel helpful for you so far, Jacqueline? And what are your thoughts? What's going on in you?
There's definitely a lot, like it feels confusion. But yeah, that does make sense. I guess trying to find the balance between I matter and you matter, because I'm like, I feel like I expressed me, and now I feel like that sense of, yeah, I have to go fix it with him because he matters too. And I guess in that sense, maybe he doesn't know how to have his voice. And so I feel that, well, if I matter and you matter, I have to take care of me, but I also have to take care of you because you're not taking care of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes sense that you'd kind of come from that place, especially if you've shut down your heart and your voice your whole life to take care of people around you. You know, then that it's what it sounds like is that there's a belief in there that people are fragile and that they can't handle you or your pain.
So you become over responsible.
So if I think of everybody else around me, then they won't be hurt because I don't believe they can actually manage themselves, because my experience has been that people can't manage themselves.
And until you quit operating out of that behavior, like when you operate out of that behavior and you keep taking care of people, now you have all this proof for, see, they needed me. See, they needed me. See, what would they have done if I wasn't there for that? But until you can put your foot in the ground, for me, codependency, which we're all codependent, we probably all will be to some extent, but we can break a lot of codependent cycles in our life. But for me, a lot of it came to like, okay, I have to put a line in the sand here, because there was a little girl, me, who learned at a young age that everyone was going to be chaotic and fragile and messy unless I stepped up and took care of everyone. Starting at age 5, I started doing that. And so because of that, I became the hero and the fixer and the giver in all of my relationships. And I eventually had to be like, I need proof that they can do it without me. I need to prove to myself that I'm not needed. And so I would, in a moment when I wanted to fix or wanted to save or wanted to be the helper, I would just be like, nope, I'm going to go over here. Nope, I'm going to say no to that. Nope, I'm going to pull back. And I over time watched, oh, that person got their need met by this other person. Oh, this person figured it out on their own. Or, oh, this person's still a mess, but no matter what I would have done, it wouldn't have helped them. The reality is that people need to be okay without me, and I need to make sure that I know that people are going to be okay without me. But until you can step back and get proof by experience that that's true, you're probably going to want to keep operating out of that thing. So you sit in the pain and discomfort of like, I want to take care of dad right now, but I'm not going to. I want to see proof that he's going to be okay, even if I don't treat him like he's fragile and incapable.
Because there's a difference between deciding that dad matters and making it your responsibility to prove to him that he matters.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's not your responsibility to prove to him that he matters.
So
But
then,
Go ahead.
like, I think that kind of was my question, because it felt like fixing it felt like codependency, but then it's like, but then how do I get that need met? How do I get that connection with him if I don't go take care of him, don't go fix it for him? Like that validation or
Yeah, I think that's a genuine fear, you know, and what I would say in this is that your heart is craving some things, and I think that if you get crystal clear on what are some things that you're wanting from him, and actually, you know, I think a part of this is going to be you letting go of responsibility for his pain and his feelings, and letting go of the responsibility of his shame on the other side of it. It's actually not your responsibility. It's never meant to be a child's responsibility to manage a parent's shame,
Nope.
to manage their emotions at all.
Nope.
And especially if you never learn that, there's probably going to be a pendulum swing here. And especially for someone that has learned to get love, you have to do it right. You have to let go of some of that having to do it right in order to actually get what your heart's craving here, which is, I actually just want to get love from my dad in this.
Yeah.
And so what I would do is, like, one of the things, so I had to do this with my mom. You know, I had a pretty hard confrontation with her. And the first time I did it, that confrontation was me saying, Mom, I felt powerless with you my entire life. I've never known how to satisfy you except by shutting down my heart and voice in relationship with you. I felt pressure to rescue you in our relationship. Every time I share emotions, I feel like your emotions become more important, and I have to shut mine down so that I can get the love and connection I crave from you. The way you talk to dad has made me feel disrespected as a man, and like I can never, you know, if I get married, I'm going to have to lose my heart and voice like my dad in order to satisfy a woman. And I'm terrified of that. I said it while shaking. And my mom cried on the other end of the phone. And then I hung up because I didn't know what else to do. But we had 8 months of continuous conversation to the point where she had big pain coming up. But I had to let go of it being my responsibility to manage her pain like I did my whole life as a little boy.
Fix it for her.
Or fix it for her.
Or be her comfort in the midst of it.
But I would continuously invite her to have pain, and I would invite her to share with me what's going on, but I would never make it my responsibility to fix her, and it was really hard. But after that season, all of my family members started coming to me to ask me why my connection with mom was so good, why she respected me, why she would actually ask me questions, you know, why she would manage herself and not put things on me anymore. And so it took a while, and it was challenging.
She even started coming to him and to us,
Yeah.
asking how to navigate the relationships with her kids.
Like 6-7 years later, after those conversations, she's now taking so much ownership in my life for all this pain that I've experienced my whole life. She's not casting blame. She's not defensive. She's full on going, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what else to do. and I know that I failed. And I know that I failed because this is what I learned growing up. And she's able to do that because I kept showing up with my voice and with what I needed, but I didn't turn my love off towards her.
Mhm.
And it's hard. It's really hard because we can even feel that pressure, even in Christian culture, to go, love looks like other people not being in pain. Right? Except we're not in charge of that. We actually have no ability to do that. Jesus actually it was never his goal to meet the needs of people. If you look at Jesus's life in scripture, it said Jesus moved with compassion, healed this person. And Jesus moved with compassion, set this person free. And Jesus, he was always living, moved by compassion and obedient to the Father. There were tons of people that came up that had needs, but he didn't react or respond to that. He actually was following what was inside of him. Does that make sense? Is that helpful? I know we're just dialoguing back and forth, but is that helpful?
I think so. I think so. So what I'm kind of hearing is I need to get very clear on what I want
Yes.
and be able to communicate that.
Spend,
And then,
spend time like imagining, what would I want dad to say to me? How would I want him to love me? How would I want him to respond? And then write some of those things down just to get connected to what you're desiring from him and what you need from him. But keep going.
Yeah.
I want her to finish sharing because I interrupted her.
yeah. And then I guess secondly, to not fix him, to not take care of his emotions.
You
I-
go ahead.
I would say that to take the pressure off this having to be one conversation.
Mhm.
This is
Mhm.
many. This is you engaging in connection with your dad. So you had this moment where you showed up really powerfully, but then you felt like you wanted disconnection because you couldn't share pain, right? So now if you fix him, you actually won't be choosing real connection with him. You'll be having enough space that feels safe for your heart. So you're actually saying no to real connection with the way that you're doing life with him.
Well, what's interesting too is like you're so afraid of your needs not getting met by him and you want them to get met by him. So you try to fix him so that he will meet your needs, but he's never met your needs that way. But you keep circling in this thing, hoping that your needs will get met because you're like, well, if I don't do this, I'm afraid that my needs will never get met and I'll never have the dad that I want. But that's already the pain that you're experiencing regardless. So you fixing isn't actually meeting the needs. And it could be actually robbing your dad from meeting the needs or robbing God of coming in and getting to be your source of love when your dad can't meet your needs. Does that make sense? So like your dad, no matter what you say, might not be able to show up for you. And that might be a grieving process that you have to go on, but that's where you can get crazy needs met and crazy connection with God if that is what happens.
But what I do know is that if he's a really good dad, like you say that he is, which he sounds like he is, he's going to respond. It may take time, but the more that you show up and he feels like my daughter is inviting me into connection, like she's sharing her pain, it's triggering my shame. But if he doesn't have you to go to as savior, where's he going to turn? He's going to turn to Savior. He's going to turn to Jesus. He's going to turn to himself. Like he's going to have to find a way to solve that problem outside of you, but you get to be his daughter and not his Savior. But that looks like you showing up with like, I want connection. Connection looks like me showing up in the ways that I have never shown up with you, which is me bringing my pain to the table. Because if I don't bring that, I'm going to continue choosing disconnection with you, which is actually not love. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. And like my dad's the easier one between my dad and mom. So I figured I'd start with him.
Yeah, probably great training ground.
Yeah. Because I feel like my dad does have a lot more capability, whereas my mom, I would feel even way more pressure to protect and take care of her. But yeah.
Sounds like you've taken some really good steps. And I think it could even be, I mean, if if I were you guys in this, I would probably, as soon as this recording came out, go and rewatch these recordings and pull as much meat as I could from it. Because there are going to be things that you'll miss in the moment that you'll be able to glean later on. But I'd love for you to like take notes and write down some of the things that you want to say to him, write down some needs that you get connected to, write down like how to navigate through the codependent urge that you feel, and like into that process, because it sounds like you're in a good process already. And I think if you just keep having those conversations, like that's a huge step that you had that conversation. It's massive. Just keep going.
And what I just will say is, just to give you vision, if you address this with dad and with mom, it's actually going to stop the way that you keep attracting the same type of people that need a savior. Because if you keep showing up that way, you're going to attract people that don't know how to manage themselves, because they're going to need you to do it.
It's so true, you guys. If
And
you
so-
don't already know it's true for your life yet, which most of you probably do, it's so true and painful.
Yeah.
I literally believed, you guys, that I was going to have to disciple my husband when I met him. I'll just teach him everything he needs to know. I'll mentor him in Jesus. I'll get him equipped in the gifts of the Spirit. I'll get him emotionally healthy. I literally thought that that was going to be my life. And thank God I worked through enough codependency for that to not be my story, because I'd probably hate you if that was what happened. I'm so glad.
True.
Be glad that you're on the journey. It changes things, you guys.
I'm the best project she ever
You're
found.
the best project. No. You're the only man I felt like could lead me.
But like, that's what helped me, is I was like, oh my gosh, but actually look back, I attracted my mom over and over and over again. You know, like at least who I saw my mom as, which was fragile, kept attracting fragile people over and over again. You know, so yeah, I think that's a great start. I think that's a great start for the process, and then moving towards just showing up with your heart and with your voice.
Sam, OMG, I attract my dad. When the bomb drops, we all do. We all attract dad.
And thanks so much for bringing that up, Jacqueline. I think the
know.
way that you've already started too is just, it's really cool.
And I loved reading the comments. All the girls were saying, I can tell how much you care.
Yeah,
It's
you really
true.
do love your
You
dad so
care-
much.
You care so much. You just don't know what to do with it. What do I do with all this? How I feel. You're doing a good job. Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're
That was
welcome.
very, very helpful. I think yeah,
Love you, girl.
thanks.
Does anybody else, just in the chat, does anybody else resonate with that? Like, was any of that helpful for you?
Good.
What was something that was helpful for you guys? Maybe you can throw it in the chat. Something that stood out to you. My dates definitely resemble my dad's tendencies. Yep. I'm a classic Enneagram 2. Nice.
Enneagram 2s are my favorite people, though. My best friends are always 2s.
Can you carry this? Yes. Will you carry this too? Yes. Will you carry this? Yep.
No, what? I just love
They're
people.
very
I
servant
need
hearted.
help. I'm not good at doing things on my own. I'm so forgetful and like a flighty butterfly. So they like anchor me down and they help me be normal.
We cannot manage other people's pain for them. Love is not keeping people from pain.
It's not my responsibility to fix my dad's pain. I know.
So good. All of it that we shouldn't have to manage other people's emotions. I'm a 2 also. Yeah.
And I saw someone, I didn't catch your name, but I saw someone say, this feels like it goes against Christianity because all I've learned is to like help people and save people. And codependency is actually not Christ-like at all. Jesus was not codependent. Jesus passed by people all the time. He walked away from people. He had boundaries. He went and he spent time alone. He got in a boat to minister to people, but like a distinct, I'm creating space from you while I lead you and love you from way over here. There were a lot of things that Jesus did, even with having just the 12 disciples. He had 12 people he did life with, and 3 that he did it intimately with. He was saying no to a lot of people whenever he chose those 3 people. So being Christ-like is being like Jesus. It's being like a little Christ-like one. You can't actually love and give powerfully, if you're doing it out of that codependency where you feel like you have to, or you feel like people need you, or that they won't be okay without you. Like if you were actually healthy and really connected to being like Jesus, you would know, oh, I'm going to love and give in this area powerfully where I want to. And then I'm going to trust that God's going to meet that other person's needs, or I'm going to trust that God's going to meet the rest of the person's needs, that I don't have to be the source for it, that God can show up and he can bring other people into that person's life to love them. But me putting a bunch of pressure on myself to love and give and be on all of the time is actually going to deplete me and lead to bitterness and resentment in the end. But if I can take care of myself and have healthy boundaries, then it actually increases my capacity to love and give more powerfully.
Yeah, if you look at the way that Jesus did relationship with the disciples and the way that he did relationship with people on the streets, it's very different. You know, relationship with your most intimate people, there's a lot more confrontation that you have than with people you're just influencing. You know, like Jesus wasn't, you know, he confronted the Pharisees over and over and over again, but he didn't hide anything or pull any punches with the disciples. The way that, because he wanted them close. And even the Son of God, he gave them truth so that they can choose what they wanted to do with it or not, because he kept showing up honestly. Like even the man that, you know, the rich young ruler came to him that said, you know, I've followed all of the commandments ever since I was young. And then Jesus saw his heart and with compassion said, sell all you have and give it to the poor. You know, he knew that that was the thing that was gripping him. He didn't pull back any punches with truth, but he still loved him in it, right? And what we do so often is like codependency is more about, I want to love you so I feel like I'm a good boy or girl. I want to love you so that I can get what I need in return, whether that's from God or someone else. Like I want to medicate my shame with taking care of people around me. And that's what a lot of people do, but it looks so good with ministry people, because we can look at
hurting. That. Amber's like, damn.
We can look at that on the outside and go, that all looks like Jesus, but how many, like we look at Revelation and we see the person that said, Lord, Lord, did we not cast out demons in your name, heal the sick in your name, raise the dead in your name? And he said, depart from me, I never knew you. Jesus wants to know us. He's not looking at works and seeing like, that's what makes you good enough. He wants to know us and have intimate relationship. And so we have to get out of our own way in order to do that. But guess what happens when we encounter God in all of the places that we haven't allowed him in? We have more capacity to give that to people that are lost in sin, that are in darkness, that are hidden in their shame. Your ability to give real, authentic love from God it comes from you receiving it. It says freely receive, freely give. That's where it comes from. It does not come from you showing up the way you think you should. That's actually not real connection. That is logical brain Christianity. That's you going, I know the concept of Christianity and I'm a really damn good performer. That's even true with spiritual gifts. You see it in the end of Revelation, right? Spiritual gifts, the gifts are irrevocable. It says that in scripture, but not everybody is carrying fruits of the Spirit, right? Not everybody is actually intimate with God. Not everybody is actually known. You know, John, the disciple, he had his head on Jesus' bosom. He constantly referred to himself as the one whom Jesus loved. He knew how loved he was by Jesus. I mean, that's what I want. I personally want to encounter love so deeply that I can just be a beacon of it for other people. I can just give it away. You know, so if you think you're selfish for receiving love, or you're selfish for having your needs matter, then you're not going to actually have any capacity to actually value other people's needs, because it's going to build resentment, because it's going to build a belief system that my needs don't matter, but everybody else's do.
Close your eyes. I feel Jesus so strong. Jesus, we all need you. We need you. We want you. Would you just come into this moment? Would you fill up every single woman's room with your presence and with your spirit? I want you guys to get connected to what you need right now. What do you need? What's your heart needing? What's your soul needing? What's your spirit craving? And then I want you to ask him, God, how do you want to meet my needs? How do you want to fill me? How do you want to be my source? And I want you to listen for him because he wants to take care of you. You keep looking to the right and to the left. You keep looking for the next person that's going to give you the answer, be your savior, give you the help that you need. And he wants to bring that to you through people, but he wants to ultimately be your main source. He doesn't want to miss out on a minute of connection with you. He wants your eyes to be locked with his because he wants to see into you. God doesn't need your attention because he's a needy God. He doesn't need to be worshiped by you to fill him up. He wants intimacy with you. And he knows that if you focus on him for just a minute, that it'll give you all the things you ever needed. That it ultimately quench that thirst in you that your soul's had for so long. That you're looking and you're like, where do I get this met? What do I do with this pain? How do I get my soul filled? How do I resolve this? How do I get these desires fulfilled? And he's like, me. I want to be the one. I want to be the one that loves you and romances you and pulls you in. But I'm not going to force myself upon you. I'm not going to take from you. I want you to freely choose me. I want you to choose to make direct eye contact with me. I want you to choose to lean into me. I want you to receive the way that I'm pursuing you. For you, not for me, for you. So I want you to ask him, Jesus, how do you want to meet this need? And pay attention to what you see and what you feel, thoughts that come into your mind, what your physical body is experiencing. Maybe he'll show you a picture. Or maybe he'll speak a word, or maybe you'll just feel his warmth or him touch you. And if you don't understand a way that he's speaking to you, I want you to ask him a question about it. Ask him, what do you mean by that? Or help me understand what you're saying to me. And then maybe you could ask him, how do you want to meet that need this week? How can I be looking for you? And then with whatever he says to you, I want you to write it down. And then I'm going to just pray for us and close this out. Holy Spirit, would you just come in a new and fresh way? Would this year mark their hearts? Would you show them how close and how intimate you actually are? Would you give them dreams in the night? Would you give them visions in the day? Would you encounter them and connect with them in ways that they haven't experienced yet? Show them that you are actually everything that they need, and that it's going to be through you that you're going to bring in people and things and other ways to fulfill their desires and the calling on their life, that it's all through you. That if we actually abide in you, if we actually lean into you, we'll actually draw all the nutrients that our hearts need. Holy Spirit, would you just give them vision right now for what this next year in relationship with you is going to be like? Would you show them who they're going to become this year? Would you give them vision for it so it's easier to get there? Would you give them vision for it so that every time resistance comes, they're like, oh, this is just because there's good coming. Oh, this is actually just another step. This is just one more step I need to take to get closer to the woman that I want to be. It's one step closer to get closer to the kind of connection that I want with Jesus. Holy Spirit, would you bring so much alignment with you right now? Would you plug us into you, plug our hearts into you, that you'd be our lifeline? That we wouldn't unplug ourselves, that we wouldn't disconnect, that we wouldn't pull back to protect ourselves. But when pain comes and when things get hard, that we would just lean into you. God, I ask you to bless every single woman on this call. Would you just honor them, God? Would you honor the decision that they made to choose into this process for themselves? Would you honor them by bringing crazy blessings into their life? That they would have these crazy things that happen that they know it's so inexplainable that it had to be you, God. Would you show up for them financially? Would you show up for them relationally? Would you show up in their health and in their jobs and in their opportunities? Would you show up with strangers on the street that are just kind to them, where they knew it was just an expression of your love for them, God? We pray for favor over them and blessings over them and more intimacy for this year with you than they ever could have imagined. In Jesus' name, amen. How you guys doing? Oh, I love that, Deborah. He said, I'm not a disappointment and that he approves of me. I love that. Haley, when you feel like you were saying, I can't have this right now for some reason, I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I'd love for you to connect with God and yourself and ask why. Like, what's stopping me from believing this is for me? What's the belief in that? And then ask God, what do you have to say about that? I want you to face that thing head on. Anytime that you guys have obstacles that come up like that, like lean into it and figure out what's there and how do I engage God in it. I love this, Rebecca. He said, I can trust him to take care of other people, that he's good at it. So good. He is good at it, way better than you'll ever be. Praise God. Oh, Mackenzie, this was my first call and I've been blown away. Wow, wow, wow. I love that. It blesses me. Margaret said, wow, he told me he wants me to bring him the real way that I feel. So good. He's inviting you into vulnerability, which is where real connection happens.
You know what happens in Christianity is that when we operate with Christianity by shutting down our needs, our desires, and our wants to serve everybody around us, we perpetuate that in the people we disciple and lead. And it actually creates a culture where nobody's needs matter at all. And it paves a way for resentment and bitterness. And it actually creates judgment when people do have needs. You know, and it creates this culture where when people come in, they're actually not allowed to be them. They're not allowed to have any of their own unique makeup. And they have to look like this image of something. And the only way that culture will know how to fix that person is by shaming their needs and telling them that their needs and they don't matter. It's actually completely anti-biblical. It's completely anti-Christ. It's actually Christian. I mean, Jesus didn't even perform a miracle till he was 30. Like, what was he doing all that time? What was he doing for 30 years? Like, we shame ourselves so quickly when we're actually meant to be in process. Like God created the heavens and the earth in process. It was shown to be a process. Everything could have happened like that. Mm-hmm. He loves to move in process. You know, it even says in Proverbs, I can't remember which proverb it was, but it talks about how things gained quickly. Things gained quickly. I can't remember what the actual scripture is, but it talks about how things that are gained quickly don't last. And this process, like if I think about just my story of self-hatred, throwing up after meals over and over and over again, like it took me 10 years to get free from that. Like because I can look back and go, for 10 years of my life, I shamed myself, hated myself, threw up after a meal, and then would get back on you know, the hamster wheel of being good enough by performance over and over and over again. And I could stay under feeling that self-hatred as long as I kept doing all the things required for conditional love. I met all the conditions, right? And that's how conditional love can fly so under the radar, is when you're meeting all your conditions, you're like, oh, I feel loved all the time. It's like, well, try not meeting the conditions, see what happens. Like, that's how a lot of Christians live too, is we go, all my conditions for love are doing ministry, are showing up this way, are showing up this way. And then we never actually get to encounter unconditional love because we've actually put it through our own filter of conditional self-love, which is why our focus is on getting you healthy with yourself so that you get out of the way of what God's been doing the whole time. Like, God is there. He's been loving you the whole time. He died for you. He is with you. Emmanuel, God with us. So it's like he is existing in our world, loving us. And we put a big stiff arm and we have all of our filters and lenses where we go, I'm actually not okay with that love being in my world because it doesn't work with the way that I get conditional, behaviors that I want in my life.
Get conditional love based off of behaviors.
Based on my behaviors.
Laura, we have to go too. Thanks for sticking around. She's like, I
I
gotta
know.
go. For those of you, I hope the call was good for you tonight, ladies. For those of you who want to stay around, we are going to be transitioning into doing small groups. We call them breakout rooms. And so if you guys want to be able to just share and have a voice, and what I love about the breakout rooms is you get opportunity to connect with the other women. We don't want you to just have to have typing conversations with each other. English, my heart and my goal for doing this the way that we do it is so that you guys can get connected to each other and have proof that you're not alone in this process. And that might look like you testing out relationship with 10 girls before you find a friendship that feels like it clicks. But I love for you guys to show up in those breakout rooms if you can and if you want to, even though it's vulnerable and new and maybe awkward. But subject yourself to it. Gosh, English. Subject yourself to it so that you can create connections. I'm done talking. So we're going into breakout rooms. They're going to be open for the next 45 minutes. And I hope that you guys enjoy. Feel free to talk about anything, but you could even talk about one thing you learned during the call or a breakthrough that you had, or maybe even a pain memory that popped up or something like that. Favorite moment, least favorite moment, anything like that.
Anything that feels like you.
So Taylor's going to break you guys into those rooms. If you want to leave, feel free to go. But we'll see you next Thursday. I think it'll probably be me and Abby Stumble.
You can
next
slow
Thursday.
down too if you want to.
I have to pee for the last 30 minutes.
Oh, okay. I was wondering why you're rushing and stumbling.
Girls gotta pee. Well, stumbling is normal. I think it'll be me and Abby Stumble coaching next Thursday. So we'll see you next week. And I hope you have a great weekend, guys. Get some rest.
Love you guys. Thanks for trusting us.
Night, ladies. Bye.